G'day ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing? Scott49 here with you once again for another installment in the Warhammer 40,000 for the New Guy series. Now in this series we're going to be going through every single faction of the game, covering off those 5 key elements that I talked about in the introduction of the series, and today we're going to keep on going through the Space Marines, or Adeptus Astartes as they're called, and we're going to be discussing the core rules for them. And these rules aren't just used as the Space Marine Codex, but throughout all the supplementary factions as well that we will cover in the future. So keep that in mind when we're talking about these as well. But before we jump into the video, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not already, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below, as we're continuing to grow the viewership and the audience here on YouTube, and it's awesome to be able to bring you this series of content that's going to go on for weeks and months to come. I'm excited to keep on digging into every single other faction within the game. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Alrighty, so to start off with, Space Marines have got several different core rules that they utilize during their games to make them unique compared to many of the other factions within the game. Now, as I've said, these are unique to Space Marines, but if you're playing Blood Angels or Space Wolves or Death Watch, they may alter some of these rules to a certain extent as well. Now, the core rules that the Space Marines have across the board are the following, which are: and they shall know no fear, Bolter Discipline, Shock Assault, Combat Doctrines, and Combat Squads. And we're going to start off with the most one-liner you could sum up about Space Marines that they're known for: and they shall know no fear. It is such a good name for this rule because it represents how stalwart the Space Marines are in the face of some of the greatest terrors that ripple and tear across the galaxy of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. And what this rule is whenever a combat attrition test is made for a Space Marine unit, they actually ignore any and all modifiers to the roll. So it's after you failed the morale test and you're seeing how many more Marines fail, you don't have any modifiers to apply to that test. It's just natural ones if they flee. Next up is Bolter Discipline. Now this is to show that most Space Marines wield a thunderous weapon called a bolt gun, or a bolter as it's also known, which is an instrument of the mankind's divinity in the galaxy and brings death to his foes. Now, Space Marines, whilst using bolt guns, don't follow the normal rules for rapid fire when firing them, but instead follow these following rules. Now, when you're shooting a bolt gun, you get double the number of attacks if the target of the attack is within half range of the weapon. The shooting model is an infantry keyword model, excluding Centurions, important to note there, that remain stationary in the movement phase, and the shooting model is either a Terminator or a bike. Now, I did say bolt guns at the start there, but there are a myriad of different bolt weapons that this actually applies to, because it applies to any bolt weapons that are listed in the Space Marine Codex that also have the rapid fire type. So if you're running Storm Bolters that are rapid fire too, you get Bolter Discipline on them. On your Terminators, they're putting out 4 shots each at full range, whether they move or not, because they're specified as having the Terminator keyword. A great piece of knowledge to have there to make your bolt guns efficient. Now, the third rule that is at the core of the Space Marines is Shock Assault. Now, this is to represent the Space Marines are elite troops, and they strike at the heart of the enemy with such ferocity that very few can actually withstand. Now, with a Space Marine unit, when it fights in close combat, if it had made a charge, if it was charged, or if it performed a heroic intervention this turn, until the end of the fight being resolved this turn, it gets +1 to its attacks characteristics, so it gets to make that extra attack when an enemy charges into them, they charge, or, you know, a character decides to move into combat with them to support another unit, they get to still make those additional attacks, which is always great to see. Now, the next one is probably one of the more common ones for Space Marines that you will know about, which is Combat Doctrines. Now, if you haven't played 40k, you won't know about these, but if you have and you've played against Space Marines, you more than likely will know what these do. Now, Combat Doctrines are sourced from the Codex Astartes that detail how Space Marines are able to best effectively fight and when to use the right tools and weapons at their disposal during battles. Now, if your army is solely made up of Adeptus Astartes keyword models, excluding any models that have the Agents of the Imperium or unaligned keyword models, units from your army get the Combat Doctrines benefit. which are determined by which battle round you are in. And so for battle round 1, you're in the Devastator Doctrine, and that's active for the entire battle round. So any heavy weapons and grenade weapons improve their AP by an additional -1 for that battle round. So it's really good to hit hard with your heavy weapons first turn. Battle round 2, the Tactical Doctrine is active. Now what this one is any rapid fire and assault weapons get their AP improved by an additional -1. So those bolt guns that we were just talking about with Bolter Discipline get this benefit. Any rapid fire plasma guns or any other form of weapon that would be of a rapid fire or an assault type gets this benefit during battle round 2. Now jumping into battle round 3, you actually get to make a choice as the player. You can either choose to keep the Tactical Doctrine active from turn 2, or you can transition into the Assault Doctrine. Now, if you stay in the Tactical Doctrine, you do keep that all rapid fire and all assault weapons getting their AP improved by an additional -1. However, if you choose to transition into the Assault Doctrine, what'll happen is all pistol and melee weapons will actually be improved by an additional -1 instead. So it means that if you're up close and personal with your enemy in combat turn 3, you're probably going to want to transition over to Assault Doctrine, whereas if you're still out of combat and you're still wanting to get some good firepower onto your opponent, then staying in Tactical Doctrine is going to be a great advantage to you in turn 3. However, from battle round 4 onwards, and this means if the game goes past 5 turns, if you're doing a custom game where you go to 6, 7 or more turns, this is what stays active, is that the Assault Doctrine is active. So again, all pistol and melee weapons have their AP improved by an additional -1 for both Battle Round 4 and Battle Round 5 if you are playing in a match play game, which is only 5 rounds, but if those custom games, it will continue to be for the rest of the game. Then, the 5th and final core rule for the Space Marines is combat squads. Now, Space Marines have the ability to break down in their squads into smaller, more tactically flexible units known as combat squads. Hence the name of the rule. At the start of deployment, before any units have been set up, any units that have got the maximum number of models, now keep that in mind, some units will have an odd number of maximum models, and so we'll explain the following part of this. They can actually be split up into 2 units containing the same number of models in each. Now, for those who have got odd number of models, it'll tell you on the data slate how they actually split up into combat squads there as well, and detail that for you. But ladies and gentlemen, those are the 5 core rules for the Space Marines that you're going to be making use of in your games when you start playing this faction. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I hope I've given you a clear and concise understanding of what the core rules of the Space Marines are, the most notable ones, and so that you can understand what benefits the army gets when they play really cohesively, particularly the combat doctrines, because you do need an entire army of Space Marine keyword models to get that benefit, as well as all the other abilities that they get, like Bolter Discipline and They Shall Know No Fear, the extra attacks in close combat from Shock Assault, and being able to split up their units with combat squads. Now, if you have any questions at all, feel free to let me know down in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like, and if you enjoy the content here, hit that subscribe button, as well as we're continuing to grow the community here on YouTube. Now, if you do have any questions, but you don't feel like asking me here, feel free to come and find me over on Twitch, where I stream hobbying sessions, live games, and tournament coverage throughout the week, primarily on Tuesday and Friday nights and Saturday afternoons, Australian Eastern Standard Time, where we're able to do all those things. You can ask those questions, and I would be happy to answer them for you in chat. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I hope to catch you in the next one.